The answering machine clicked on at my house. The message left sealed my doom. I talk about this story, what I did wrong, the lesson I learned from it, and how it's going to impact everything I do going forward. When I was 15 years old, I had my driver's permit, and I was driving my dad's large white Econoline van. I don't know if you remember these things from the 80s and 90s, but it's just this huge boat. And this was the car that I learned to drive on because it was the only car that my family had available. And my mom asked me to go to the grocery store, the Piggly Wiggly, down the road and pick her up something or other, I don't remember. And so I took my younger sister, Lydia, with me, who was probably 9 or 10 at the time, and I'm 15. And if you've ever driven a large truck or van, you know that you need to swing it wide. So I pull into this parking lot, and I see there's a parking space available. And being 15, I hadn't learned this lesson thoroughly enough. And as I pull into this parking space, I hear this crunch on the right side of the van. I stop, I get out, it's kind of pulled the little trim piece off of my dad's van that he's just had repainted, and it's also damaged the bumper of this red sedan that was parked right next to me. I'm like, oh gosh. And so I back out, I pull kind of back in, I pull the trim and like straighten out the crimps in it, and I like snap it back into the door. And as I'm doing this older guy is walking by, and he's witnessed this whole scenario. He's seen me scrape the car. My sister's like, oh gosh, what are you gonna do? And I had already shopped. Actually, yeah, no, I don't remember if I was coming or going. But he said, look, dude, get in the car and get out of here. He's like, I didn't see nothing. I didn't see anything. I would just get out of here right now. And it crossed my mind at that moment. I'm like, you know what? That would be nice. I could get away. I could tell my dad, oh, you know, I scraped against like a telephone pole or something. I could make something up. I could get Lydia to lie for me and cover it up. But I'm thinking, you know, no, it's not the type of person that I want to be, even though I am afraid of the consequences here. And I'll tell you later how I was afraid of the consequences, and I didn't really own up to them, but we'll get to that in a second. So I go into the Piggly Wiggly, I get the manager or whatever, and I said, and he makes an announcement, hey, you know, whoever owns this red Toyota Camry, here's the license plate, whatever car it was. And this older lady comes out, and she's the owner, and we walk out there, and I say, look, you know, I'm sorry, I scraped your car coming in. And she's like, okay, well, you know, it's no big deal, it's not that bad. Let me just get your information and we'll figure it out. So she gets my phone number, and I get whatever my mom needs, and I come home. So I did do the right thing there, but here's where I started to do the wrong thing. When I get home, I tell Lydia, I'm like, look, don't tell mom and dad about this. Like, I'm gonna have to wait until the right time. Like, I'll tell them, but let's just keep this thing quiet for now. And she's like, okay, you know, whatever. She's a little kid, you know, she goes along with it. And so I have a Boy Scout meeting that night. I'm in Boy Scouts, and I go to the meeting. I ride my bike to the church where the meeting is, and my family sits down to dinner. And now the phone number that I'd given this lady, you got to remember, this was, you know, 1990 something. We didn't have cell phones. So I'd given her my home phone number. She calls our home phone. And telemarketers are always calling at dinner time. My dad never answers the phone, and we have an answering machine. And the answering machine clicks on, and back in the day, if you don't know or are familiar with an answering machine, it has like a speakerphone. And so the person is leaving this message, but it's being broadcast on a speaker out of the study. And hey, you know, this is Gloria Jones, and I just wanted to compliment your son. He was so nice and he was so honest when we got in that accident today, he hit my car and he came into the grocery store. He found me. He told me that he'd done that. And I just wanted to tell you thank you. But of course, my mom and dad have no idea that this has happened. And my dad, he hits the roof. He's like, what do you mean an accident? And poor Lydia is sitting there and they're like, you were with him. Like, why didn't you? And she's like, I don't know. He said not to say anything. Like, I don't know anything about it. And he said he would take care of it. And so she's taking the rap for this because she's the only person home. But when I got home from that Boy Scout meeting, my dad, he sat me down. He's like, Jennings, I got a pretty interesting voicemail. And he hits the button and he plays the voicemail for me. And I know that I'm screwed. And I say, Dad, I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid. Like I was going to tell you, but it just wasn't the right timing. When you got home from work, you seemed really stressed out. And I just didn't want to say anything, but I was going to tell you. And he said something to me that really impacted me. And I still remember, 25 years later, he said, Jennings, there are going to be bad things that happen to you. There's going to be bad things that happen in life. There are going to be mistakes that you make. There's going to be just bad luck. There's going to be situations that get out of hand. He said, in the day that you hear of it, you need to address it. You need to do something about it. You need to tell the related parties. You need to come clean. You need to fess up to it. He's like, I don't know why, but God gives us special grace in the day we hear of it. And if we don't take advantage of that situation, that problem only grows. And he said that to me, and it really, really impacted me. So just yesterday, I'm driving home from pickleball, playing some pickleball with my older son, Jennings. He's 13. And I have a missed call from another father in the neighborhood. And to rewind this, earlier that weekend, my younger son, McCarthy, who's 11, had a friend over. And he said, hey, Dad, can we go downtown? Okay, so can we go downtown? What downtown means is downtown is literally like 4 or 5 blocks away from where I live. There's a little town square. There's a candy store. There's a little park there. And it's a pretty safe area. It's not too busy and it's not too far away. And so I am under, supervision of this child, my son's friend. Like he's come over to play at my son's house. And I say, yeah, you guys can go downtown. Because I know the other dad is okay with his kid going downtown. So I say, yeah, you guys can go downtown. Well, apparently they did a little bit more than just go downtown. And this father calls me and he says, hey, I saw your son, McCarthy, and this other boy, and they were sprinting across like a 4-lane highway, Berlin G. Myers Parkway, which is a really, really busy road in our town. And they were going to Palmetto State Armory, which is like this outdoor hunting gun store, which is fine, but it's way out there. It's way beyond downtown, like 10 more blocks away. So they were way outside of the boundary that I thought they were at. And this dad had called my son's friend's father as well. And so now he knows about it. And I'm supposed to be, watching over these kids. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm in trouble here. He's in trouble. Like I got to sit down with McCarthy and talk about this. And so I sit McCarthy down and I say, hey, when you went downtown over the weekend, what'd you do? He's like, oh, we went to Garen's. I said, well, what else did you do? He said, oh, well, we went over by McDonald's. I was like, well, you shouldn't have gone that far. What else did you do? And then he gets quiet. He's like, well, we went to Palmetto State Armory. It's like, well, where did you cross the road? Because there's a stoplight there with a crosswalk. But at least he should have crossed there instead of just running across the road in the middle of the road. He's like, oh, we used the sidewalk. I said, son, where did you cross the road? And so he admitted they ran across the road. And I said, listen, I'm responsible for you. That you know that you weren't supposed to do that. And he said, Dad, I didn't know. I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to do that. I said, McCarthy, listen to yourself. You're nervous talking to me. You didn't want to tell me the truth. You didn't want to tell me where you went. You didn't want to tell me that you crossed the road, not at the crosswalk. You knew. Your conscience was telling you not to do that. And God speaks to us in a very still, small voice, these little promptings of like, I should check in with my spouse. You know what? I probably shouldn't make a partnership with that person. I shouldn't do this deal. I maybe shouldn't take on that loan. Or this is a good thing and I can go forward. But God doesn't yell at us. He doesn't shout at us. He speaks to us in a very still, small voice. And if we ignore that, we push that away, and we dull that voice, we stop hearing it. It's still there, but we don't hear it. And McCarthy, I need you to listen to your conscience. I need you to listen to that small voice, because I'm not going to be there in every situation to tell you, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't do this, or whatever. You're going to be growing up and making your own decisions, and I can't control that, but I need you to have wisdom, asking God what I should do in certain situations. So he apologized. He came clean, got in a little bit of trouble. And I said, okay, you know what? The next thing we got to do is we got to call Mr. Mike, the other child's father. We got to address this with him, because I just heard about this 30 minutes ago. I've gotten to the bottom of what happened, but there's still a problem. There's another adult that, was wronged by me. Like, I didn't watch out for his son. I allowed this to happen, and I need to address this. And you need to address this too, McCarthy. So we called Mr. Mike up, put him on speakerphone. I'd say, hey, listen, this is what happened. This is how I found out about it. I'm really sorry. I know I was in charge of your son, and I let this happen. And I didn't know they were going down there, and I'm sorry about that. And, it was okay, right? And then I had McCarthy apologize to Mr. Mike. And Mr. Mike said, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Just don't do that again. And we cleared the air with that situation, right? So I'm learning, and the day you hear something, take care of it. The third example is I made a loan. About 6 months ago, and the client, the borrower, stopped paying about a month and a half ago. And so I communicated with some of the investors that were backing the loan. There's 2 investors backing the loan and me. I got my own money in there too. And I call these guys up and I say, hey, look, I don't know what's going on with this loan. They haven't paid, but I'm going to go to this site, which was, 6 hours away drive. I'm going to go to this site and I'm going to figure out what's going on. And so I jump in the truck with a friend of mine that's related to the deal, and we go down there and we see what's going on, and it's not good, right? There is saving the deal. There's a way out, but this guy has not been keeping his end of the bargain. He's not finishing the project, and the money is at risk. And so, we get together a plan. We figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to recoup the capital, and it looks like there's a way out of this deal. But I'm driving back home, and I'm like, oh man, I really need to report back, because the last thing I said to these investors was, hey, I don't really know what's going on. He just hadn't paid this last month and a half. So I'm going to go see what's happening. Hopefully everything's fine. Well, everything wasn't fine, right? And now I know everything's not fine, right? And so when I got back home, I picked up the phone. I called the first investor. I laid out the situation. I laid out the plan. I laid out what we're going to do about this problem and how we're going to recoup this investor's money. And I got off the phone with him, and I called the other investor, or I texted him. I said, hey, can you talk? Yeah, when can you do it? And I was like, can you talk right now? And he's like, yeah. So I call him up right now, like, get this off my back, because I don't want to carry that weight. I don't want to carry that weight around with me. Obviously, the problem is still there, but I don't want to carry around the weight of people being in the dark, people that should know, people that are involved in this and deserve to know. I also don't want it to get back to them a week, a month later that, hey, what's going on here? I heard from so-and-so that there's a problem and you never called me and you never talked to me. You never addressed this. Like, that degrades trust. I'm going to have an instant loss of credibility with that person, not only as an investor, but just as my character, that I didn't come clean, address the problem, tell him what's going on, tell him the truth. The worst business dealings that I've ever been in has been with people that I've realized this person's not telling me the truth. They're telling me what I want to hear, but they're not really telling me the way the situation is. If the situation is bad, okay, let's lay it out there and let's figure out how to get around it, how to get through it, how to get over it, how to solve the problem. But don't tell me oh, everything's fine, it's all gonna blow over, everything's gonna be good, don't worry about a thing, when I should be thinking about this and I should be working on this. And maybe if I knew earlier, there would have been time to rectify that situation. But because they dragged it out for months and months and didn't tell me, now it's too late. There's nothing I can do about this. And so telling those guys, it takes that weight off my mind. It unclutters my brain so that I can focus on the real problem and how to fix that. It prevents me from being called out on their terms, right? Because when you're not communicating and somebody calls you and is demanding answers, right, you're on your heels. You're in a defensive situation. You're not controlling that narrative. You're not controlling that situation anymore. Whereas if you're calling them on your terms, being proactive and telling them, this is what's going on, these are the issues I see, this is what we're going to do next, this is how we're going to get through that, people can put up with a lot of stuff if they're communicated with, because not every deal is going to go perfectly well. Not every deal is going to be a massive home run. There's going to be bumps and lumps along the way. And the more that you communicate and the more you show them what's going on, keep them abreast of the problem, the better that situation is going to turn out, even if it doesn't turn out in the ideal pro forma scenario. It shows that you have courage, right? That you're not afraid, or even if you are afraid, you're still willing to do the right thing. It shows the investor that you are a man of your word, that you have the character to do hard things. They're getting to see in real time when the chips are down, when this guy hits a roadblock, when this guy hits falls in the ditch, this is what he does. He doesn't cover it up. He doesn't hide from it. He doesn't run from it. He doesn't stop picking up the phone. He doesn't start proactively calling people. He makes it right. He works on it. He addresses it. He's a man or a woman. You know, if you're a woman out there listening to this, but they stand up and they're not afraid. They have courage. And it builds trust and confidence in others. And it just shows how you are going to act under pressure. People know, they inherently know that everything is not perfect. Have you ever seen somebody on social media and all they're doing is just constantly posting all these great wins they're having, all the beautiful things that are going so great, and everything they touch turns to gold? You know that that's BS. People know that's not how life works. Sure, some things go really, really well, and other things don't. And the people that aren't transparent with how they're facing their problems, they sow seeds of distrust, and they reap that in investors saying, you know, I just don't want to go in on this deal with you. I don't want to do the next deal with you. No, I'm not going to co-sign that loan with you. No, I don't want to be a partner with you because you're not telling me the whole truth. So in recap, you are going to face problems. Maybe you're facing a problem right now. Maybe there's something that's weighing on your mind. And you know, man, this happened a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. I should have addressed it when it happened. I should have told whoever I needed to tell, but I didn't. And now it's too late. I promise you, this is the best time. The best time to plant an oak tree is 100 years ago. The second best time is today. If you didn't address it properly when you should have, when it happened, the next best time to address it is right now, today, the day you're listening to this podcast. Pick up the phone, call the problem, call the person, address what's going on, start to get together a plan and move through that. Or even if there isn't a real great solution at the time, you still got to communicate with them and let them know that you're working on that. Because God does give grace in those situations, and they're going to happen. This is just words coming from the trenches, somebody doing this for years and years and years, and facing those difficulties, and it puts metal in your backbone. Every time you do it, it becomes easier, and it just becomes a part of who you are and your character. So guys, get out there this week, get after it, address those problems, come clean, call the people that you need to call, move forward, and unlock your life. Peace.